Welcome to Talking in Common, a podcast of all things lifestyle, family, relationships, well-being, kids and culture. This is not a how-to, but an insight into the lives of ourselves and others and how we all manage to get by. Hosted by myself, Kate Gadinsky, and my co-host, Sophie Panton. Take a listen and let's find out what we all have in common.
Boobs, they've been here before.
What were you saying? Debut for the baby, but no debut for your boobs. They've been here before.
They've been here many times.
They get around those boobs around this podcast, that's for sure.
They certainly have.
Girls, we're
back.
Yes,
We're back.
And can you believe you are 1 whole month postpartum with your third baby?
Oh, I actually can't believe it. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. It's the most common thing that people say, but fuck, it goes so fast.
But fuck, you did it.
Fast. I know. I did it.
Did it. Yay.
Birthed another baby.
You birthed another baby. It does go really, really fast. That is so true.
And,
So-
you know, in a weird, crazy way, like, you know, that I was quite over being pregnant. I didn't love the pregnancy, haven't really loved any of my pregnancies. Wasn't necessarily ready for the baby to come, but was ready to not be pregnant anymore. And now I have this weird feeling where I'm like, maybe I need to do it again. It's sad that I'm going to not be pregnant again, and I don't have that anticipation about birth and when's it going to happen and what's the child going to be, and
I
you know, like the loss of all of those little life experiences is like already making me sad and emotional.
Should we have a fourth together?
Oh my God. Like, I mean, if they stayed as babies forever, I would totally want to have another one.
Tiny, cute little squishy
So-
newborns.
so
I can
sweet,
hear
aren't
your
they?
tiny little squishy newborn, but I
know.
can't. I just saw a bit of her head.
No, I'll show her in a minute. But of course, she's just had like a really lovely long morning nap. And I sort of thought, should I wake her before we do this and try and feed her and settle her so she's nice and quiet? But then I thought, you know, maybe she'll just sleep through it and I don't need to. But of course, she woke up right as we were ready to go.
Well,
Has-
I'm glad she's here
Yeah.
because today, you know, is mostly about her and you too.
Yeah.
But before we talk all about baby Vala
Yes.
and your birth
Mm-hmm.
and your postpartum, I think we should just talk about what we have in common first because we tend to be forgetting about that in the last few episodes.
Yeah, true. Well, I mean, how much do we really have in common? Oh, we've always got stuff in common, but like, are you lactating? Are you breastfeeding? You know, any of the obvious things in my world right now?
Definitely not breastfeeding anymore and not lactating.
Well, that's a shame. That's about all I've got going on in my world.
Okay, I think I know what we can talk about because we have been talking about this a lot on the phone lately is the bloody morning rush. Which,
Yeah.
we have spoken about this before on the
Yeah,
pod.
true. But we
Sorry.
speak about it most days.
How are you finding that? Because you now are a mum of not only a newborn but 2 other little tiny humans as well. So that's 3 in total for anyone who's not great with maths.
Here. Well, it's a good time to ask because this is my first week that I've sort of been doing it somewhat solo. My partner Aiden's just gone back to work this week. So it's in my, like, you know, it's been in my mind and it's something that I'm now practicing and being dealt with each morning. But my 4-year-old, since we had the baby, she's been, you know, a bit emotionally challenged. She's really given us a run for our money. She's really ramped up her attitude. And I know a lot of her behaviour is probably very common and very normal when a little baby comes into the family. But it's been so hard. She's like gone back to wanting, it's just her little way of scraping back a little bit of attention, I think, but she's gone right back to like, I need you to help me dress me, put every sock and singlet and t-shirt on and spoon feed me, and I want mummy, I want daddy. Like she won't do anything herself anymore. So having that feeling of like, you know, a little bit grown up independent 4-year-old going off and dressing herself and going to the toilet on her own and eating her own breakfast and all that sort of stuff, which was so helpful. She's just totally gone backwards. But you know what? All of that I can deal with, but it's the fucking whinging and the whining
whinging and whining
and the complaining about it all that just is too much to handle.
Oh, I know. The whinging literally drives me around the twist. There she is.
Ta-da! We do this little thing with
Ta-da.
Ren, my 2-year-old, where I present the baby to her and I say, ta-da, do-do-do-do-do-do, and hold her up like this. And now he says to me, ta-da, do-do, ta-da, do-do.
Little Rennie boy.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one because it's such a big change for her again, isn't it? Her whole world has changed once again, and her sort of it's changed for her because now she doesn't have one little baby brother. She's got a baby brother and a baby sister.
Yeah.
And, when there's more kids, there's kind of not as much time to go around to every one of them all at the same time, which makes it really tricky.
Yeah, just in the last couple of days I've been trying to explain that to her a little bit. I've been trying to take the time to explain things a bit to her rather than just being like, you need to do this. I need you to do this. You have to do this, I've been taking the time to explain things. I'm like, look, Mummy's only got 2 hands and you can hear Ren calling out and he needs help and I need to feed the baby and, I'm here for you as well, but you're the big sister and you're the big kid and all of this sort of thing. But then also I actually spoke to her kinder teacher about it this morning because I thought, she might have some good little tips for me. Or I was also just interested to know if she was kind of doing the same thing in at kinder as well as at home, which she's not, of course. She's only putting it on at home. But she was saying that, it is a big responsibility being the eldest child and naturally girls as well, we tend to put a bit more responsibility on girls, to help out and all of that sort of thing. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting point. So I'm also conscious of not trying to put that much pressure on her that she has to be the big responsible sister. She's still only 4. She's allowed to be a bit of a baby sometimes.
Yeah, totally. And I think because you don't want to make it we've got another baby now, and because you're now this much older, you need to help me or you need to do this. I suppose putting more of that focus on, but these other things that you are capable of doing yourself, come on, hun, you can do this because you're really great at that, or I've seen how well you can do this, or
yeah.
Ren can't do this, but you can. Obviously not saying that in front of Ren because, he's younger, but it's, showing her that it's great that she can do all these things, but it is really tricky. And, throw the morning in and trying to get out the door to go to kinder is just makes it a whole lot harder because there's a time restraint and then you don't want to rush them, but you end up having to rush them and get frustrated.
Well, in another episode and in our normal day-to-day life, you share things that have worked for you because your girls are obviously a little bit older. But it obviously doesn't get easier, right? The morning rush.
I have to tell you, this morning at school drop-off, I was talking to another school mum who I'm quite friendly with, and she's got 3 kids too. She's got 3 boys. Ooh. And I heard her say something to one of her kids oh, well, look how well you just hung up your blazer at school. You could probably do that at home if you can do it so well at school, all that stuff. Yeah. And she's like, oh, I'm so frustrated with these kids. It's so hard to get out the door in the mornings. And she's got a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 8-year-old. So and she's like, I'm trialing this new thing. She's like, I've got this new list. It's this new calendar. And the way she was describing it, I think it's it connects to her phone, but the child doesn't have to use the phone. It's kind of like a frame, like this sort of frame that you get. Okay. And through this app, you can pop in the calendar, but you can also pop in lists of things to do for all the kids in the morning, and you can put times next to them and whatever. So for each child, it could be, get up and brush your teeth, put your clothes on for school, put your school bag at the door, whatever's relevant to your child, eat your breakfast, put your soccer bag at the door, all that stuff. And anyway, she's like, I don't want to tell you too much about it at the moment because we're literally one day in, but she's like, I'll let you know in a week. And I looked it up. It looks very cool. Okay. And she's like, you can put little pictures on it and you can kind of make it fun. And then the child then goes and ticks it or draws on it when they've done it, which is similar. We've done that before, I was saying to you, but literally just with like a printout that's laminated and a whiteboard marker. And the kids loved it, but that novelty's kind of worn off for them now.
Yeah.
And now
that's the thing,
like,
isn't it? Those things wear off after
still eating my breakfast. I need to go to the toilet.
Change their mind. Don't want to wear this anymore. I
don't want to bow my hair. I don't want that.
Yeah.
It's hard to get out. It is really hard. I don't think that part of it gets any easier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe we'll kind of go into this a little bit later when we talk more about sort of the early postpartum stuff. But Aiden and I had a big chat about a few things that we can do to help support each other. Like once, this was the day before he was about to go back to work, and he's been at home for 4 weeks, since the baby was born, which has been amazing because it's meant that I have been given some really nice time to rest and recover and to spend with the baby, and he's totally taken care of the other two. He's amazing and he does so much around the house, and he's super helpful to the point where it drives me crazy. But we had this big chat about things that we can do, and so we've started it off super organized. We've written a list of things that each other can do to help support each other, also me helping support him get back to work, because that's obviously a big change again for him, and things that he can do for me to help me set me up for success in the morning because he's gone early. And so once the kids wake up, it's just me and the kids, and those little things have already helped so much. And it's seems ridiculous, but one of the things that I asked him to do, because he gets up early, he's got that time to himself. I was like, can you please unstack the dishwasher and put all the stuff in the kitchen away? If there's any dishes left from the night before that didn't fit in the dishwasher or didn't get washed or whatever, can you kind of do that? So when I get up, I've got a full fresh start in the kitchen and an empty dishwasher to start stacking, So it's just little things like that you start on the front foot.
Because clutter also creates stress.
Well, yeah, and Aiden and I are both like that. I know you're like that too. We can't think in a house that's too sort of cluttered or untidy. And the franticness of all the kids and the whinging and the whining and them, doing a poo right before you walk out the door, or throwing a shoe out the door, or, taking their socks off right before, all these sort of things that throw you out. If your things are done and the house is somewhat organised, then at least it just makes it a little bit easier.
You can focus on them.
Yeah. And then one thing that I've been doing as well is actually setting my alarm and getting up half an hour before the other two kids usually wake up, and having a shower and getting myself ready. So at least when they wake up, I'm at least ready. So then I can focus on them. Little baby girl obviously, is a wild card in all of this. She can throw things out, but, you've got to give and take a little bit, have a bit of flexibility with it. But at least if you're trying to run to a bit of a plan and a schedule, it's really been helping.
I think so. I find even the smallest things, if I don't, if the girls and I don't put their clothes out the night before for school, that actually throws things out in the morning, because then I'm saying go and get ready. I've got to leave soon, and they're like, where's this? Where's that? And actually they can't reach some of their stuff, and so it's then it becomes this, stress, which it doesn't need to be. Yeah. All right. Let's start talking about your birth, because
I've got so much more to say about the morning routine. I've got so much more to say about postpartum, 3 kids.
So for a while,
I feel make this a 2-part.
I feel like for a little while, you, as much as I think you really wanted a third baby, you were still a bit are we going to have a third? Yes, no. And then obviously you now have a third baby. But how did you feel when you first found out that you were pregnant again?
Well, she was a little bit of a surprise, which now that we've been through the pregnancy and everything and have her with us in our lives, it was the biggest, best blessing we could have ever asked for, because we didn't have to think about it. And that's just such an incredible bonus, such a blessing in life, just to be able to become pregnant like that. But at the time it was a surprise, and we probably weren't ready, to be fair. I've probably talked about this, I can't remember, but we weren't really that ready. So it was a shock, and it took weeks, months of it actually setting in and feeling real. So we were a bit shocked and a bit apprehensive and, nervous, to be fair.
Yeah.
Nervous about it. And because at the time as well, we were feeling the pressure of the busyness of 2 kids and life and everything. And so it felt like a lot, felt quite heavy, to be honest, even though it's such an exciting moment. It felt daunting.
Yeah. Okay. So with Ren, so obviously Ren, he's not even 2 yet. He's nearly 2. He might be 2 by the time this comes out.
Yeah, he's too soon.
But when you found out you were pregnant, he was, 1 and a bit, maybe?
Yeah. Like
1
months
and a bit. So it wasn't that long ago that you'd been pregnant with him. And I remember kind of, you had a bit of a tricky pregnancy with Ren. Like your mental health wasn't the best when you were pregnant with Ren. How was it this time?
Oh, I was also so nervous about that, actually. Thank you for reminding me, because I had forgotten about that. And I think it made both myself and my partner a little bit nervous, because I had this sort of pregnancy anxiety or pregnancy depression, which was really difficult to navigate because I didn't really realize what was happening at the time. Luckily, I started seeing a psychologist quite quickly, and she sort of guided me through the whole thing and made me aware that it could be quite possibly related to the pregnancy, and guided me through the whole thing right until the end. But it wasn't really until afterwards that I was able to recognize that it was really pregnancy related or hormone related. And then once I had him, it's like it just disappeared, which was
because it was quite scary for you at the time.
Yeah, I was having quite serious panic attacks, and it would kind of come out of nowhere. I sort of started feeling really anxious about being alone and being abandoned, and that's very unusual for my normal personality traits or type.
Yeah.
So it was quite full on. So yes, that was one of the things that added to the feeling of it feeling daunting when we got pregnant this time, is that going to happen again? And is that what we're in for? But at least because I had that experience, I was able to be proactive about it. It was something that I spoke to my GP about straight away. And
you're aware of it.
Yeah, and my midwife, and I was able to tap into the resources that I had found helpful the previous time and all of that sort of thing. But no, I didn't experience it this time, and I'm very glad that I didn't.
Yeah.
Because it was not fun.
So, leading towards, I guess, I feel like, you probably didn't get to even stop and think about being pregnant much this time around, because obviously you had Ren and Honey keeping you very, very busy amongst many other things. But sort of towards the end of this pregnancy, we were having a chat, and I think actually it was the last episode that we've released, where you were sort of feeling you were feeling quite emotional, which obviously is really common towards the end of pregnancy, but you were feeling like you were really unprepared, like that you'd kind of not, not, I wouldn't say made the time, but you hadn't had the time to get into that zone. And I feel like something really powerful that you shared that your midwife said was that the fact that you're even thinking about it means you're doing the work. Like you are doing it, you're just not aware of it. So once you kind of knew that Vala was well on her way, when you'd gone into labour, how did you sort of feel? Can you remember how you felt in that moment? Like, did you just kind of slip back into what you remembered? Did you feel prepared then? Did you feel like, I've got this?
Such an interesting moment to take myself back to or reflect on. So when I first went into labour, are we talking about?
Yeah, because, sorry, actually also one thing I observed about you, and I think it was the day before you went into labour, you just sounded really calm all of a sudden. Like you'd gone from being, I'm unprepared, like I'm not quite ready for the baby to come, to like, yeah, I feel pretty good. Yeah, I'm really I'm just relaxed. Like you felt there was like this kind of, I don't know if you noticed it, but there was like a change in you.
Yeah, I did notice it. I probably didn't recognise it as that at the time, but I definitely did notice that. But that's the incredible power of our kind of innate emotions and responses to to natural things, isn't it? It's just incredible. It blows my mind what our body's capable of and how it functions and how the process works for birth. But it was quite a funny introduction to my labour this time around. Well, look, let's start. Let's start from where I first got the first sign. So in the middle of the night, one night, I was up settling my 2-year-old and I suddenly felt like a lot of wetness down there. And I was like, oh, like that's wet and that's a bit odd. Okay, interesting. But I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. I'll just get him back to sleep and I'll go to the toilet and check out what's going on. Must be my mucus plug is what I was thinking. Never had that experience of like losing my mucus plug before. So
how many weeks were you at this point?
39.
Okay. Yep.
So a week before my due date, and I had a strong feeling that the baby was going to come early because I was just carrying so low the whole time.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I could feel the baby in my pelvis for like 3 weeks before that. I was low. My belly was low. Could feel it all low. Everyone kept saying, I don't know, feel like it's going to come early.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this was 39 weeks. So yeah, I went to the toilet and I had that kind of, mucusy show that they call it, or the mucus plug. So that was my first sign, and I went to bed feeling a bit anxious and apprehensive. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean like it's coming any minute?
Yeah,
does
am I
that mean
about to have the
coming
baby
in 2 weeks? Like, what does that mean? And I'm pretty sure I woke Aiden up and told him, maybe after a couple of hours though, of like lying there being like, oh, not sure what that was, and or not sure what that means, more so. And I was like, but it's fine. Like, I feel fine. I don't know. I'm just letting you know.
Do you want to say it?
Like, okay. Yeah. Do you want to say it? And then I went back to sleep, got up the next morning and, fun for me, had a primary school tour for my 4-year-old that morning. So I got all the kids organised and got them to the school tour and just felt emotionally, off. Like I wasn't coping very well with the kids. It was like Honey could sense something was going on because she was making it really difficult for me. She kept running off on me and I'm like heavily pregnant, got the 2-year-old in the pram. She's running off on me. And I just couldn't cope. I was just kind of like, please listen to me. Please don't do this to me now. It's too much. And I funnily enough, I saw another couple of parents at the tour that go to Honey's kinder, and the lady was like, oh, how are you going? When are you due? And I was like, oh, well, actually I'm due sort of any minute, really, any day now, but I feel like I'm getting some feelings now, to be honest, like, like nervously, like not really knowing what was going on. And then late, like, a couple of weeks later, once she found out I had the baby, she was like, oh my God, were you in labour that day? Like, I thought you were joking when you said that. And I was like, oh, she was like, I'm so sorry. I would have offered to help you. I thought you were joking. And I was like, I kind of was joking. I don't know. But anyway, I got through the school tour and having like, very kind of mild tightenings at this stage, but like, kind of half an hour apart or quite irregularly, but something, definitely some really mild tightenings, but very much like a big emotional surge, like I was feeling very emotional. Once I got in the car after the school tour, luckily I had a grandparent looking after the kids that day. So I was like, just get there, get them dropped off, and then you can think, then you can check in with yourself, see how you feel. And I called Aiden once I'd done that, and I just was crying and I was like, something's going on, but I'm not sure what. Just need you to know. I think I'm fine. Like, I'm sure it's not happening, but just need you to know that that's what's going on. And now he says, like, in his mind, he was like, okay, I know that it's happening.
Yeah, it's happening.
Like from afar, I can see exactly what's going on. But I was just very conscious of like not wasting anyone's time. Obviously, we had to get the other 2 kids looked after. We live an hour away from the city, and the hospital that we were giving birth at is in the city. So I had to consider the travel time and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, I had this conversation with Aiden, and then he decided, he was like, I'm going to come home from work. And I was like, no, it's fine. It's fine. Like, it could be 2 weeks away. I don't know what's going on. He was like, it's all good. I'll come home from work and we can just figure it out. And if it is, it doesn't matter. Like, I'll just go back to work tomorrow. It's all good. And I was like, okay. And then by the time he got home, like, I was still very emotional, but I definitely went into this, just like very calm, accepting state of mind.
The baby's coming.
Yeah, and I was like very thankful that the other two were being looked after and I didn't have to worry about them. And it was just actually so lucky at the timing of the way that all happened, because it meant that Aiden and I had the afternoon together just to like chat about, you know, where we were going to go from there and what we needed to do, and, you know, get some stuff organised around the house and pack some extra things that we wanted to take with us to the hospital, and have some lunch together and actually just have a moment of time. Yeah, a moment of peace and some time to make a plan from there. And yeah, naturally I did kind of go into this state of just acceptance from that point, because right up until then, yeah, as I had said to you a lot, and that I was really nervous about the birth and felt very unprepared.
I remember speaking to you that day and you said to me, I was like, oh, what are you up to today? And you were like, I think I'm going to have a baby today. I was like, what? A baby? You're like, yeah, maybe. I think I'm going to have a baby today. I was like, okay, cool. But you're like, but it's just not much is happening at the moment. But you were definitely on your way to have a baby.
Yeah.
Before we keep going, we had a listener question.
Ooh.
So it was about, given this was your third birth, was there anything you did differently leading into the birth?
Yeah, probably nothing at all. No, I think like you were saying before, like we talked a little bit about it in the last episode when I was still pregnant, that I was feeling guilty and, you know, kind of annoyed at myself that I hadn't done any proper birth prep or hadn't kind of got in that headspace. But yeah, the midwife was really reassuring and really lovely, and just reassured me that even just me being conscious about that and thinking about that was me doing the work. And I have been here before and I know what to expect, and I've already done the work, you know. I've in my previous pregnancies, I have done a lot of reading and research and birth courses and all that sort of stuff, and actually already birthed 2 babies, you know. So I had done the work in that sense. So that kind of just like almost allowed me to be more at peace with where I was at with it, and not to just worry so much, because you just can't worry about something that hasn't happened, or, you know, it's really hard not to. You get nervous in the late stage of pregnancy, but so emotionally or like mentally, that was kind of all just like allowing, like giving myself that kind of peace and grace that I have already done the work, and not to put so much pressure on myself. And then physically, I wished I had have done more in a way, but massage was like my saviour this time around. I saw a myotherapist and had some really good proper myotherapy treatments and massages.
So good leading into birth, isn't it? And just looking after the pregnant body, being massaged.
Yeah.
Best.
And having, like, you know, proper qualified people give you massages that are like, you know, using the right pressure points and encouraging the right areas and releasing, you know, pressure in the right areas and things like that. So that really helped. In the past, I had done acupuncture and all things like that, but this time I just honestly didn't really have that much time or think that much into it. Yeah, so that was all really.
I think what you shared is a really nice reminder anyway, because I feel like it's a common thing, people when they're pregnant with, you know, second or third or fourth babies, they do worry that, you know, they haven't done as much as what they did to prepare when they were pregnant with their first or with their second. You know, you start to feel guilty, but at the end of the day, you know, you've already done the work, you've given birth. So, yes, guilt's a thing, isn't it? Mum guilt.
Yeah.
Forever getting you.
Yeah.
All right, so back to this day. So you and Aiden are at home.
Yes. So we spent the afternoon together, and then I called my midwife late that afternoon and just checked in and explained to her what was going on. In fact, I didn't speak to her. I spoke to the backup midwife because she was off duty that day. And the midwife said to me, oh, if you've been feeling these tightenings all day and you're feeling, you know, the sort of emotional surges and other little signs, the mucus plug, other signs like that, she was like, I would definitely make my way to the city if I was you. And I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
Because I kept saying to Aiden, I think I'll just wait till I'm properly in labour and then we'll just drive to the city. Like, it'll be fine. My previous births have not been particularly quick, even though everyone kept saying to me, oh, your third birth could be really quick and you don't want to have it on the freeway and all this sort of stuff. I was like, I'll be right. I'll be fine. We'll just wait till I get a sign and go. Anyway, that was her recommendation, so that's what we did. We made our way to the city to my mum's place, and I was still getting much the same symptoms, like really mild tightenings, but still like half an hour apart or an hour sometimes or something like that. But we made our way to our mum's, had some dinner there, went for a walk after dinner, bumped into one of my neighbours who my mum had said to her, you know, Soph's on her way and I think she's in labour and all of this sort of thing. So my mum's neighbour saw me and she was kind of looking me up and down like, what's going on? Like, is the baby still in or is the baby out? Like, what are you doing out walking at night? So we had a chat to her. It was quite funny. And then we kept wandering down the street and this massage place was open. And Aiden was like, do you want to go in and get a massage, like just a foot massage? And I was like, sure, why not? So we go in there and we were walking my mum's dog. So we go in there and we're like, oh, can we just get a 20-minute foot massage, please? And the lady was like, yeah. And we're like,
I wish your waters had have broken in that minute.
I know. Well,
sitting on the chair.
I said to her, they said, oh, come, we can take you both into this room. You can both lie down. And I was like, I think I'm in like the early stages of labour. I can't lie down. And she was like, okay, that's fine. Like, we'll sit you up and make you comfortable. And we're like, can we leave the dog in the foyer? She was like, yeah, that's fine. And so we went in. We had this beautiful, lovely, relaxing foot massage. Aiden was lying on the bed like, I'm sitting there like, oh, this is actually really lovely, like really nice. You know, it was just, a funny random thing to do, but it was really nice. And then we came out and the girls were like massaging the dog's paws. But my neighbour that we had seen having dinner like 2 doors down apparently walked past and she recognised my mum's dog and came in and was like, oh, is that my neighbour's dog? And she would have been like, what the hell are these guys doing? Like, Sophie's in labour. Like, they're walking around the streets at night and now they've stopped into a massage place.
So good.
Oh, so funny. So that was a fun little
so were the contractions getting more painful by this point or more intense by this point? They were still quite mild.
Yeah. No. And I just was like, what's going on? And this was all like Aiden's way of just being like, it's all good, just go with the process, and, let's get a massage, all these little distractions, because I kept being like, I've jumped the gun, it's not coming, like it's probably a week away, just getting in my head about it. And he's like, well, let's just treat it like we're having a nice night off, like a nice night out without the kids, let's go for a walk, let's go and get dinner, let's go for a massage. So, bless him for keeping my mind distracted, because it worked. And, we were very lucky that we had my mum's place to go to close to the hospital. And so all of that worked really well. So then we got home from our massage and same thing, same symptoms, ended up going to bed. And then at around 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night, I got my first sort of more intense contraction. And I was like, oh, great. Now I'm hoping, hopefully I'll have a good night's sleep and wake up in the morning and be ready to go. But of course I get the first sort of sign at 10 or 11 o'clock at night before I'd been able to fall asleep. But I was like, that's all right, here we go. And, I just lay there for a couple of hours and they were getting a little bit closer together, now every 20 minutes, now every sort of 10 minutes, but they were still quite irregular in a way.
Yeah.
And then I woke Aiden up after a couple of hours and I was like, this is what's happening. They're kind of like every 10 minutes apart now. Do you want to come out and sit by the fire with me or something? So we did that. And it was just so slow. It was all so slow. It was like that went on for another couple of hours. Mum woke up, she was lighting candles and making the house all lovely and not trying to get too in my way, but be there to support me. They were both just kind of like hugging me and we were just chatting, and Mum made a joke and was like, maybe we should have some pancakes. And we were all laughing about it. And then like 10 minutes later I was like, maybe we should have pancakes. So Aiden was like whipping up a batch of pancakes at 2:30 in the morning.
How good.
And they were the best freaking pancakes, like buttery, heaps of maple syrup, and like between contractions I was like, oh, these pancakes are amazing.
Then you're like, oh, don't show me a pancake. Oh, yeah, a pancake.
Yeah. I was like, oh, wait, I'll hold that bite. And then I was like, oh, yeah, back to the yummy, buttery, sweet pancakes. And then this just went on and on and on, and finally it got to like 3 a.m.-ish, something like that. And the contractions were now, getting a lot more intense and finally around 4 minutes apart.
Yep. So, sorry, another listener question then. When they're getting more intense, what positions did you find helped during the labour process?
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Like, good question in my circumstance, because I was just like cruising around the living room a lot. I was just walking around, swaying my hips, doing like gentle kind of like squatting and swaying and lots of like bending over, leaning my weight on the bench. And like Aiden was doing really firm kind of hip pressure point massage on my hip during the contractions. That was really nice, like felt really good and helpful. But just slow kind of swaying movements were really helping. But yeah, like relevant question to this point in time in the story, because right as the contractions were getting more intense and we were literally about to leave to go to the hospital, I just suddenly felt really exhausted, and I was like, I'm just going to lie on the couch. I just need to be horizontal for a little while because I'd been moving around so much and standing up and now labouring for hours. And I lay down on the couch to have a little rest, and I fell asleep for like an hour. And the contractions came to a complete halt.
I was going to say, because if they were really intense, like you probably wouldn't have been able to sleep through them, but they must have just started to dwindle off.
It was the most bizarre thing. We were literally about to, like, Aiden had just spoken to the midwife and she was like, yep, third baby, if they're 4 minutes apart and they're feeling quite intense and she's feeling it. Like, again, this is another kind of experience that is different when it's your third child or you've birthed before. They kind of leave a lot of it up to you, like if she feels ready, then tell her to come in. And I was feeling ready. It was like quite intense, again, I was like very emotional. I feel like that's a big sign. If you have these emotional surges, that's like a big sign that things are transitioning or things are changing. And lay down, fell asleep for an hour, woke up, and I was like, what happened? And Aiden was asleep on the couch next to me. Looked at the clock and I was like, wow, what just happened? That's so annoying. Like, what's happened? You're
already climbing up that hill.
Gosh,
you want it to keep going. You don't want
seriously. And so I woke Aiden up and I was like, oh, what happened? What do you think? Like, what do you think we do now? And I was like pissed off. I was really annoyed. I was frustrated at this stage and exhausted. And I didn't know this at the time, but he had spoken to the midwife and the midwife had like reassured him like, no, this can happen, especially if you've birthed before, like your body kind of runs the show. Like, her body obviously was tired, and once she allowed it to rest, it just rested, and that's fine. Whereas he kind of went into a bit of like, my God, what has just happened? Like, is everything okay?
Yeah.
And so I just said to him, like, well, should we get up and go for a walk around the block and try and get things moving again? Or like, I feel really exhausted. I kind of feel like I'd love to get a bit more sleep if I'm about to then go into this.
Yeah.
And so we decided to go to bed and try and get more sleep, and we did. I went back to bed and I fell asleep for another 2 hours and then woke up at like 7:30 or 8 a.m. with another strong contraction and started the whole freaking process again.
The body is amazing, isn't it? That it just goes, you need that rest. I'm just going to like chill for a bit, and then I'm going to wake you up with like a really intense contraction, and we're back on.
And we're back.
So this was, what time? That was like 8 a.m. or something you said?
Yeah.
And it was happening again. And so then what happened from that point?
Well, it started all over again. They were slow and really far apart, like another half an hour apart again. I was like, oh my God, like this is such a mental game now, like what do we do now? And anyway, thank God for having Aiden, and, it's so important to have a good supportive birth support person, whoever that may be for you. But he was like super calm throughout the whole process. And like just really like, I don't know, aware and like really really what I needed actually, which beforehand I was putting like a lot of pressure on him, like, I need more from you, being so hormonal in my pregnancy. Like I need more from you when I was feeling really, really nervous about giving birth. Like he was like, you'll be fine, darling. Don't worry. Like you'll be fine. I'm like, I need more than you'll be fine. I don't know if I can do this. But anyway, in the moment, he was really, really like, present and there for me and exactly what I needed. So yeah, he was like, well, it's totally up to you, but how about we go for a walk? It was a really nice, sunny, chilly, but sunny autumn morning. So we just kind of like rolled with the punches and just had to go with the flow. We got up, got dressed, went for a walk, got a coffee and a pastry, as you do, stopped and had contractions on the side of the street every so often, and just did some nice breathing and chatted and just, rolled with what was happening. Bumped into a few more neighbours, told them I was in labour. And yeah, because it was just so slow again, I just started feeling like, I just don't know if I can keep going on like this. What do I do now? And so being at my mum's, she had a couple of things to go out and do that day, and she was like, I'll stay here if you need, or, but I was like, I don't think anything's happening, Mum. Like, go and do your thing, and we'll be here. Like, we'll just be here cruising along. And interestingly, when she left, hang on a sec. I was still at a point where I'm like, I'm not sure how quickly this is moving or what's going on. Like, maybe Aiden and I can go and do a few jobs. Like, there's a couple of things that we haven't got. Maybe we should go to baby bunting. Aiden was like, all right, yeah, we can do that. Let's go to baby bunting.
Did you do that?
No, we didn't, because it was not long after that obviously, like, not obviously, but it was not long after that things sort of ramped up a little bit.
Yeah.
So my mum left to go and do her thing, and then I was just like, I'm ready now. Like, I'm going to try and get this show on the road because I'm ready. I can't keep going on like this all day. Like, I'm having this baby today.
Yeah.
And so I like put all the blinds down in the house and, started burning some oils and stuff like that. And Aiden was like, I could see you. You were like a mother hen, like scratching around. You were like putting blankets on the floor and drawing the blinds and setting the scene.
Getting to full nesting mode.
Yeah. And that's what we did, and that definitely sort of spurred it on. I like allowed myself. I started really moving. Yeah. I was like doing lots of walking up and down the house. I was doing like really deep kind of swaying movements and squatting, but again, like, I sat down on an exercise ball for a little while and I was saying to Aiden, can you brush my hair? Help me relax, brush my hair. And he did, and like, so I was brushing my hair and I was really relaxed, and then I didn't have a contraction again for ages. And I was like, oh no, got too relaxed again. So there was something about like my body just going with how I was feeling.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, we're not doing this again. We're not. So then I like got up and I was doing some stretches, and I think I even probably Googled, like, to remind myself some good labor movements, active labor movements. Did a few of those, listened to some good songs, did a bit of dancing. Don't know if I really want to share too much about this, but we actually ended up having sex.
Right in the middle of your labour. That's good, but apparently that can bring it on or get it going more.
It did.
Yeah.
It absolutely did. Like,
lucky your mum didn't walk back in the house.
I know. Oh my God, she's going to listen to this and be like,
where did you have sex?
And the only reason why I say I don't want to share too much about this, because it feels like a really personal and intimate part of the story. And it was, it was. And but I do want to share it as well, because if you are going into, wanting to experience a spontaneous labour and wanting to try anything that helps bring it on naturally, or like, I would recommend it. Yeah. And also the fact that the thing that led us to doing that was that we were physically connecting a lot, like really like big hugs, lots of kissing, like, Aiden and I have been together for ages, and like, it's not like we make out these days, you know what I mean? It's not like you make out with your long-term partner or, very often, but literally from there, afterwards I went and had a really nice warm shower, and in the shower the contractions got a lot more intense, a lot closer together. I remember Aiden coming in and checking on me. He was like, you're all right, just stay in there if you're comfortable in there, and just kind of he came in and checked a couple of times, but I was like, I'm like calling out to him. I just had another contraction, because that by this time he's kind of timing for me what's going on. And then, from there they were like 5 minutes apart, 4 minutes apart. And he was like, let's go. Let's
get in
do
the
this.
car.
Let's go. Yeah. So we did, and thank God we did at that point, because once I got to the hospital, then it went quickly.
Yeah.
Thank God.